Retaliation.
Yeah, she had a big word. She used to say payback. She used a preacher word on it. She said retaliation. The preacher wouldn't say payback, but he could say retaliation. He used a big word. So that's what payback is. That's what revenge is. I heard a story about, I guess it's 20 years, maybe 30 years ago. I heard it told by J. Anthony Brown, but I've heard it told, ascribed to different people since J. Anthony Brown told the story. Tells a story of a man who, is that my phone? Yeah, my sister has my phone. I know my phone ring anywhere. And this man on the beach comes across a bottle, and he rubs the bottle, and out comes a puff of smoke followed by a genie. And the genie offers him to grant three wishes, and all he has to agree to is that his wife will get half of whatever get twice as much as or whatever he gets. And so the first thing the man does is he asks for $1 million, and on the beach pops $1 million, and so wherever his wife is, she gets $500,000 because she gets half of what he gets, and I'm messing it up, double what he gets, and then he asks for jewelry, and his wife gets twice the jewelry he gets, and then finally with the third wish he asks that his wife that he would be scared half to death. So if he's scared half to death, then his wife gets double. So his wife gets scared to death, and that's how that story ends. Samson, that's retaliation. That's revenge. Yeah, that's somebody who is disappointed. He's outdone. He's outraged by the behavior of someone important to him, and so he takes advantage of this opportunity to do something. What's wrong with revenge?
Well, the Bible says, well, God says, vengeance is mine, and I shall repay. So you really can't get revenge on a person because of the consequences. You can choose your choices, but you really can't know what revenge really is, how the impact really would affect them indirectly.
What's wrong with it? Revenge. Reverend Bell says what's wrong with revenge is you don't know when you got it. Yes, Mary.
I think we forget sometimes revenge, like anger, does more damage to us than it does to the people we're aiming at.
So what's wrong with revenge is it's like a self-inflicted wound. It's like shooting yourself in the foot.
You reap what you sow.
Yeah. Reverend Bolden says you reap what you sow. If you watched the football game last night, the wide receiver from one team kept taking cheap shots on the defensive back from the other team. But every time the official saw, he never saw the first lick. He just saw the retaliation. He saw the second lick. And who got punished? The guy who threw the second punch. And it happened like 5 or 6 times in the course of the game. He thought he was getting even, but he didn't get even in his retaliation. What's the opposite of revenge? Say what? Yeah. You could insist on exacting your punishment. You could insist on retaliation, or you could say, I started to say simply say, but it isn't always easy simply to forgive. Sometimes it's difficult to be forgiving, and yet we are challenged to forgive. And so one thing that is wrong with revenge, as Mary points out, is that it can be painful. It can be painful. It can produce results other than the results that a person might desire. And so Samson has decided that he wants to get even with those who have embarrassed him so easily, coming to the solution for the riddle that he laid out. He gambled and he lost. He thought that things would turn out one way, and they didn't turn out the way that he had hoped, and he was so embarrassed that he decided he wanted to do something about it. If you remember where we ended chapter 4, where his father gave his wife to Samson's best friend. Father-in-law gave his wife to Samson's best friend, and Samson, when he appeared, all he got from his father-in-law was an apology. And as you read the beginning of chapter 15, I didn't think you really liked that one that much anyway. So how about her younger sister? Won't you be pleased with that one? And Samson was less than pleased with this offer, and insisted that he was going to his wife's room. And now here's a man who, when he found favor, ended up with 30 groomsmen to go with him, to attend him in the ceremony that would have married him to his wife. But where were the groomsmen now when his wife has been given away? And Samson is left to fend for himself. And in the first 8 verses of this chapter, we see what happens when you insist on getting even. Can we do those 8 verses, Mary? Verses 1 through 8? Come on, Cornelius.
Later on, at the time of wheat harvest, Samson took a young goat and went to visit his wife. He said, "I'm going to my wife's room," but her father would not let him go in.
Hang on. Wait, what did he say? Go back to put it up, Mary, again. This is a man. What's his disposition?
You think he married?
Huh? What's his disposition?
He's upset.
He's upset. He is mad as a wet hen. He's mad as the devil.
Because his wife told the people the riddle.
And he lost the bet.
He lost the bet. Yeah.
And
He lost his wife.
he lost his wife. So I'm trying to get you to recognize the emotion in this thing. This is Humphrey Bogart. I'm going in. He shows up at this place. I'm going to my wife's room. Well, what happens when somebody comes to your house and they knock on your door and they're going to tell you that they're going where they're going? In your house. Yeah. So he's the strongest man they know. He's the strongest man he knows. And he's protected. He's a Nazarite. So he has done, has performed great feats of great strength, and so he thinks a lot of himself and his ability. And it's already been revealed that God, the Spirit of God, I got you, Mary, that the Spirit of God comes upon him, and when the Spirit of God comes upon him, he can perform in ways that nobody else can. So here's an angry man who comes and he says, "I'm going to my wife's room." Yes, Mary.
No, I've already got my answer. That's okay.
What was your question?
I got these two women confused, and I thought this might have been a continuation of the difference between Jews and non-Jews, but he ain't got to the non-Jews yet.
Yeah, right. Okay. So remember that scene from the Sanford and Son episode? I want my daddy records. Yeah, blind who?
Blind Miller Jello.
Blind Miller Jello wanted his daddy records, and Samson wanted his wife. And so he's going back and looking for his wife. This is outrage. This is indignation. And if there's such a thing as righteous indignation, it's understandable that he would feel indignant. Sometimes you feel indignant. Sometimes you feel angry. And sometimes you feel you have every right to be angry. Your anger is justified and justifiable. And the right is on your side. And so when you decide that you want to get even, maybe you'll respond in an emotional way and do what you think you have a right to do, or say what you think you have a right to say, or maybe you respond as the Christians in the room said tonight, in forgiveness. Well, I don't think forgiveness is what Samson had on his mind. He doesn't sound like he was thinking about forgiveness when he said, I'm going to my wife's room. Yes, Lorna?
Also taking into consideration that his wife had gotten the riddle out of him, and also her family was saved. So his father's never looking at, well, why? What you want now? You put her in a bad situation, and then she went to the side of her family, and now you're gonna come up in here and do what? He dangerous. No, you ain't coming in here.
Yeah, you're very kind to this man when you say that he's happy that his daughter, that he and his daughter have, as it were, taken sides against Samson, because had they not resolved the riddle, the deal was they were about to lose, but they didn't lose. Instead, they won. And so they made a decision that Samson disagreed with, and he, instead of being the insider and on top, was the outsider and on the bottom. What does verse 2 say, Mary?
I was so sure you hated her, he said, that I gave her to your companion. Isn't a younger sister more attractive? Take her instead.
I was sure that you. What made him sure that he hated his wife? Say what, Reverend?
Well, he called her last week.
He called her a heifer.
Because he called her a heifer. You plowed with my heifer. Yeah. Does that mean you hate somebody if you call them a heifer? I don't know. Have you ever called anybody a heifer? Was it hate?
Well, not your wife.
Okay. All right. So the father, is his response indignant when the father comes to this? It's a rash and sarcastic. It's a rash decision, and his response is laced with sarcasm. I didn't think you wanted her. You treated her like you didn't like her. So I gave her to your friend, to your boy. So what you looking at, in the words of Lorna? What you looking at? What do you want now? We solved the riddle. You ain't nothing to you. You say you coming in here? I don't think so.
Because, see, last week, he was so angry that he's the one who left and went to his father's house. He left his wife there. Right. So if he left her standing at the altar and went on back home, yeah.
All right.
He didn't leave her standing at the altar. They were already married, and she betrayed him. I mean, you were betrayed by your soulmate, your confidant. And once you lose trust, you ain't got nothing.
Okay, Mary?
Daddy still got a problem because Daddy getting ready to give the next daughter to the same man he say ain't worthy of the first one. So something ain't right.
Yeah, this does sound peculiar. I didn't think you liked that one. How about another one? So the father about to get a twofer. His job is to get his daughters married. He got one married twice, And now about to get to his second daughter. Maybe get another riddle and get some more out of it. Yes, Reverend.
Well, to really, she was in a very difficult spot because it was just a riddle that she had to find that information out from Samson, where her life and her father's life was at stake.
Yeah, stakes were high.
The stakes were high.
Yeah, stakes were high, and it sounds like one of those the questions offered in an ethics class. What would you have done? Would you have insisted that your husband tell you the truth so you could save yourself and save your father's life, or would you have let the thing play out and let the chips fall where they may? And what Miss Samson did was perhaps what anybody with good sense would do, and that's keep on begging the man until he did what she asked him to do, so that she got the results that she asked for. But it is interesting to me that the amount of deception that has gone on in just these few verses, as people insist on getting what it is they want. Why am I standing in the shadow, Mary? What are the next verses?
Samson said to them, "This time I have a right to get even with the Philistines. I will really harm them." So he went out and caught 300 foxes and tied them tail to tail in pairs. He then fastened a torch to every pair of tails.
Say what?
Lit the torches and let the foxes loose in the standing grain of the Philistines. He burned up the stalks and the standing grain together with the vineyards and the olive groves. When the Philistines asked who did this, they were told, "Samson, the Timnite son-in-law, because his wife was given to his companion." So the Philistines went up and burned her and her father to death. Samson said to them, "Since you've acted like this, I swear that I won't stop until I get my revenge on you." He attacked them viciously and slaughtered many of them. Then he went down and stayed in a cave in the rock at Etam.
Who's winning? Samson's winning?
Well, everything's how you look at it.
Right.
Because right now, what she was trying to prevent has happened. Because in chapter 14, the only reason that she pressed Samson was to save her and her father's. So that succeeded. But here, they still died.
So who's winning?
So Samson is winning.
Is that right? Go ahead, Neil.
I don't think so, because he lost the one thing he wanted most, his wife. So he didn't win. He lost the bet, the riddle. He lost his wife, his father-in-law. I mean, the Philistines lost all the grain and everything and their lives. So nobody's winning.
Yeah.
Because it speaks to the original question about retaliation. Who when you do revenge, the tit for tat? No, there is not a winner, because technically, to get back at a person, you're shooting yourself in the foot. So nobody really wins.
Yeah. It's the point, I think, of this part of the whole story of the life of Samson. He's a man. That's why I say his nickname is Sonny. The meaning of his name is Sonny, but his life is anything but sunny now. There's no light in this. This is a dark moment in his life, and it's one of several dark moments in his life that we have seen so far, and it reveals what we have identified as what's wrong with revenge. So it is possible to make a bad situation worse by insisting on choosing revenge over forgiveness. It is possible to complicate things further, or to dig yourself a deeper pit by trying to make sure that you're the one who ends up, as it were, on top. So you gain this position, which, at a cursory glance, seems to show that Samson is a winner. But why would Samson have chosen for himself what he ends up with at this moment in the text? Now, you know the whole story, and so you know how the story turns out. But the lesson for us that we pay attention to is what happens when you insist on getting even. What happens when you insist on having it your way? Yes, Reverend.
It brings to mind this tragic but true story. When I used to work at this London Fog many years ago, the Bunda boy, good guy, had life, everything was good, very well mannered and everything. Anyway, he had a little baby girl, 14 months old, and his girlfriend had the baby, and she drove to get some gas, left the baby in the car, ran into the service station to get gas, and this guy ran and jumped in the car and drove off with the baby in the car. Guy saw the baby in the car, stopped on the side of the road, left the car. Baby was fine. But the bundle boy that worked with me, good guy, he could not move beyond what had happened to his baby. And we talked to him for 2 months. It's okay, let it go. But it ate him up inside. He found that guy, and he killed that guy. Revenge. And he ended up in penitentiary because he plotted, he planned, he had time. And when I read the story, that was total revenge, getting back at.
He got the last lick. Remember that game? He took the last lick. You don't remember that? The last hit, the last hit. Cornelius remembers it. Yeah. That's so you can get the last lick, but it might not be what you think you want, and it is likely not to change what's real, likely not to correct what has gone wrong. So that indignation might be right, might be real, but it's not right. It's not particularly helpful. What would be better, what would be more productive, is something that produced an outcome that we would desire, that we would prefer. Yes, Reverend Lorna.
Well, it's like everybody seems to want something called justice, but it's not justice because it's intended to do harm, and each person was doing harm to the next one.
Yeah.
And even when the father gave say go get the other daughter, he was being flippant, and it was he knew that this man is out of control, and then you're gonna do that, and so but then even the people, the guys are saying, well, the only reason why he's doing this is because the daddy gave away the daughter, knowing it's a whole long arc of story. So they say, well, he didn't have a reason to do this, so we're gonna go back and kill these people. Yeah. Everybody wants the justice, quote unquote justice, but it's not really.
Yeah, it makes it begs us to describe what real justice is. Is it justice when my offender is offended, when my offender is harmed? For a property court, they would say when the person who has been offended is made whole. And the thing that makes you whole is that you end up being put in a position so as to be back where you started. But how do you get back where you started in a circumstance like this? And so what we are challenged to do, what we're challenged, you and me, to come away with from an examination of this story is when we insist on revenge, when we insist on retaliation, we insist on having it our own way, we insist on getting even. So that if you hit me twice, I got to hit you twice. If you hit me 3 times, I got to hit you 3 times. That means it's even. If we both knocked out, does that mean we're even? Or both put to death, does that mean we're even? Is that what justice is? I'm glad that divine justice is not like that. It's a very different dimension, a different quality. If I were to be put back to where I started, I would be a person without sin. My sins would be erased. Yes, Mary?
I think sometimes we forget the level of growth we come. If you think about the fruits
A little bit louder, Mary.
Sometimes if we think about what they were trying to tell us about the fruits of the Spirit, it's kind of shallow and arrogant when you're driven by those kind of raging emotions instead of self-control. Because we give a foothold for the enemy to bring strife and confusion and disunity and destroy what the Spirit is trying to build. So even if your enemy is cutting the fool, the best thing is not to respond in revenge and perpetuate that kind of evil in the vicinity, in the unity.
So much had God invested in Samson. God had blessed him. Before he was born, God began an investment in Samson, empowered him, gave him and his mother and father instructions for how he was to be born and how he would live. But Samson played fast and loose with his gifts and did not obviously treasure, did not value what God had trusted him with. And one question that we come to when we think about all that God has trusted us with and how we manage the gifts that God has trusted us with. Samson was empowered to fight wild animals, and empowered to lead armies, and empowered to make judgments, to mete out justice, and was seen as a person whose life was pleasing in the sight of God, to the degree that when he needed strength, physical strength, God gave it to her. When you need physical strength, or when you need mental capacity, or when you need gifts to be up to a task, up to a thing that God has called you to do. Somebody heard me say a month or so ago, when I've been struggling for air, that sometimes it happens that I get the air that I need long enough to do the task. If I said 30 minutes, it's going to take me 30 minutes to say what I come to say. I can breathe for 30 minutes, and in the 32nd minute, I'm out of breath again. It's God's way of supplying the thing that we need for the task that He calls us to do for the moment. So it's He who does the work. It's not us, but it's God who does the work. But Samson's who had an opportunity to be faithful to his calling, instead is unfaithful to his calling, and he begins to seek Samson-style justice. And Samson-style justice means burn up everything and everybody. Samson style justice means everybody who offended me, I'm going to hurt you. And so he did. And so here's a man who started out sunny and ended up anything but bright. Yes, Reverend.
And it speaks to the thin line of forgetting or remembering the source of your strength. Samson, because he was called from God from the very beginning, and of course, you know, his mom and his dad reminded him all the time. So in his mind, he became his own source versus remembering the source is God. So you can look at his attitude about how he felt about himself and the choices and the things that he made and he did. It was all about him and forgetting the true source. He was a self-made man.
Yeah, maybe that's where the saying comes from, remember your own strength. Because when he thought about his strength, what he saw was he looked like somebody from the WWE. He's muscular and powerful and can beat everybody and can call up the strength to do it. Well, when you call up strength, where do you call it from? He doesn't call his strength out of nowhere, out of thin air. He calls his strength from God in him. And more than once in the text between 14 and where we are so far in 15, where we read where it's the Spirit that moves in him and strengthens him for an occasion. The Spirit strengthens us for occasions time after time in our lives. And when we take credit for what the power of God does in us, or by us, or through us, that's the definition of blasphemy. That's when you decide that it's me, I did it. When it wasn't me, it was him. And it might not last. I tell you all the time that we are anointed for tasks over and over again. And the anointing for certain things lasts for as long as it takes to get the thing done. But it's not an anointing that just roosts as much as it rests. So an anointing may come and go for a thing that needs to be done. So that when God chooses a task, he chooses the one who will perform the task, and he does not leave the person to come up with what it takes to get the thing done in his name, but he uses his name and he uses his Spirit to work through the person to get the task that God wants done. Yeah, so and if you don't, you fool yourself into thinking it's you. Look what I did. I know that with your hands, but you can't do that with your hands. You know your hands. So it looked like you, but it wasn't you. So if you take credit for it, you on a dangerous road because you take credit for a thing that God does. That's one reason it makes me uncomfortable when people tell me what a great job I did. I say, well, I'm cheating. It ain't me. It just looked like me. So I can't show you where the power comes from, but watch this, listen to this, and when I'm honest, I recognize that it's not me who does the work. I get credit for it. I get the pat on the back and all that, but give God the glory. Yeah. Let's see how far we can get between 9 and 20.
The Philistines went up and camped in Judah, spreading out near Lehi. The people of Judah asked, why have you come up to fight us? We have come to take Samson prisoner.
So that's
They
two
answered.
different voices, you see. See, it's two different voices. He said, what is this? Why are you mad? What did we do? It's not all of you. We've come to take Samson prisoner. See, Samson has angered the Philistines, and so they come looking for him. They want to do what?
Do to him as he did to us.
Or in one word,
Revenge.
retaliate. They want to retaliate. They want now, who took the last lick? You see, so when the twin towers were struck in 2001, what people all over America were interested in is getting bin Laden. He hit us, so we're gonna hit him. And it took 20 years before the war was proverbially over and bin Laden was dead. And what's different? The towers are still down. All the people who died that day still dead. And all the people who fought in the war and came back maimed and broken and bruised and lost their minds and all the other things that have happened to them are still suffering the consequences of a nation that insisted on retaliation, revenge. And and they put the face of the enemy, put bin Laden as the face of the enemy. So if we get him, we're all right. But bin Laden been dead a long time, and the war just over. And some people still haven't left the country. So it's a thing that we can get at. I got to get this Ruth Reed and other person.
Then 3,000 men from Judah went down to the cave in the rock of Etam and said to Samson, don't you realize that the Philistines are rulers over us? What have you done to us? He answered, I merely did to them what they did to me.
All right, which is the same thing they said. We're going to get him and do to him what he did to us. And so here's both sides of the belligerence with the same argument. I want to fight. And they blame Samson. That Judah says, look, man, you can't go be picking fights with people acting like the only one who has skin in the game is you. You about to get all of us hurt. And so often it's true when you go picking the fight, so you don't hurt just yourself. You don't run the risk of getting only harmed yourself. You run the risk of get a lot of other people hurt also. And so here are two sides of two different nations being placed at odds with each other, and nothing good can come out of it because it's about to go down, because I'm about to do to you what you did to me. Come on, Mary.
They said to him, we've come to tie you up and hand you over to the Philistines. Samson said, swear to me that you won't kill me yourself.
Come on now. Listen. Go back.
Swear to me.
Well, before that.
Oh,
they said to Samson, I'm sorry, man, but we're gonna have to give you up. I'm sorry, but it's either you or all of us. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna surrender you, since they didn't really come looking for all of us. They just came looking for you. And so what we've decided is that we're going to release you. We're going to hand you over to their custody. That's right. And Samson, who's always calculating, so you're going to give me to them. I'm stronger than everybody. I can beat everybody. How can I make sure that I come out of this smelling like a rose? How can I make sure that I come out of this on top? Tell you what, do this. Swear to me that you won't kill me. We're going to hand you over. I know you got to hand me over, but don't hand me over dead. Hand me over alive. Don't you kill me. This is the calculation. This is a man who is crafty as they come. This is a man who is looking to play all of his cards right so that he ends up where he wants to end up. He's thinking 3 steps ahead of everybody else who's in this proposition. So tell you what I want y'all to do. Just tell me, just swear to me that you won't kill me. Yes, Mary.
Agreed, they answered. We will only tie you up and hand you over to them. We will not kill you. So they bound him with 2 new ropes and led him up from the rock. As he approached Lehi, the Philistines came toward him shouting. The Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like charred flax, and the bindings dropped from his hands. Finally,
let's do those verses. So here comes the opposition. They have his family members, his friends, his kindred have done what they said they were going to do. Okay, we won't kill you. And Samson's already got it in his head. How many they got? Yeah, I think I can take them. And so he prepares himself to do battle with the Philistines, knowing what he knows about himself and his own capabilities. He knows what he can do, and the Spirit of the Lord comes upon him. Now, why does this happen? Yes, Mary.
That's the backstory.
Turn your microphone.
That's the backstory that's just killing me as I listen to y'all go on about Samson. The Lord knew who Samson was, and he built him up just for this purpose, to keep going off and killing Philistines. He wanted to hurt the Philistines.
Who didn't want to hurt the Philistines?
I said the Lord wanted to hurt the Philistines, and he used Samson to do it. He knew exactly who Samson was, and allowed all these circumstances to fester because that man was going to do what he do, and that's kill Philistines.
Yeah. And the only problem I have with that argument is it's built on the premise that God knows everything that's going to happen, and he knows every role that every person will play, and it leads too easily to the position was therefore my position in life is fatalist, so that it's going to happen, it's going to go down just like it's going down. It absolves me of responsibility when I say God already knew how this story would end. So I can't resist the urge to place responsibility on Samson for the choices that Samson makes, even though I know at this point in the story that God, knowing everything, already knows how not only that Samson, but this Samson is going to behave and going to respond. And so I still have responsibility for my own choices and for my own behavior, and I dare not surrender to the attitude that because God is God, it's just fatalist. Come on, Ron. I'll be back, Mary.
No, you're good, sir. You helped me out there.
Okay. Yes, Mary.
I'm going back to 14, and in the beginning of 14, in verse 2, he said, I've seen a Philistine woman named Timnite. Now get her for me as my wife. And his father said, isn't there an acceptable woman among your own relatives and all our people? Must you go to an uncircumcised Philistine? But Samson said, get her from me. She's the right one. His parents did not know that this was from the Lord, who was seeking an occasion to confront the Philistines, for at that time they were ruling over Israel. He set that hot-headed boy up to do what he do?
To make the decisions that he made. He set Adam up. He set Eve up. He set Mary up. He set Larry up. He set us up to do the things that we do. I can't sign on unless I absolve myself of responsibility for the choices I make. Add the phrase, that's a redaction. It explains. It keeps the story on track by observing in chapter 14. That's a literary device that this explains it, and it answers the question that somebody else argues. Oh, why didn't God stop this? Because you could ask that about 1,000 questions or 1,000,000 questions. Why didn't God stop what God stopped? The answer could be because God wanted this outcome and not that. So the outcome that God wants is for everybody to have everlasting life. And so to jump way ahead in the story, so God intervenes at a time when we have demonstrated by Samson and everybody else since Samson that we couldn't restore a right relationship with God on our own, based on our own abilities. And so God takes the business in his own hands and says, you know what? I'm going to change the rules for your salvation. And no longer the law, but now I'm going to do this. I'm going to wash you myself with my own blood. And that's how I'll bring you through. And so I want you never to come, you know what fatalism is? The notion that things are just going to turn out the way they're going to turn out. I know some people who believe that's how God operates, that God started to stop the world is spinning and then took his hands off of it and walks away, and everything is going to turn out the way it's going to turn out. That's the trouble with our dealing with predestination, that our behavior does not have consequences, but it does. We don't have to choose evil. You don't have to choose wrong. You don't have to choose badly. But Satan also knows what you like. He knows that you like them Timnite women too. You ever seen a Timnite woman at sunrise? Ain't nothing like a Timnite woman, boy. So, and he knows what you like. And so, and having created this, God knows what's here, what we have to work with. So remember your own necessity for taking responsibility for the choices that you make, because you are the one. I am the one responsible for the choices that I make. Can't blame it on God like Adam did. Adam said, "If you give me a better wife, you know, this wouldn't have turned out so badly." Let me see how many more verses I can do. Mary.
Finding a fresh jawbone of a donkey, he grabbed it and stuck down 1,000 men. Then Samson said, "With a donkey's jawbone, I have made donkeys of them."
Flag on the play. What is it? Taunting. Yeah, taunting. He said, "Yeah, okay, you mess with me, I'll make a jackass out of everybody." So he takes the jawbone of a jackass and he makes jackasses out of everybody.
With a donkey's jawbone, I have killed 1,000 men. When he finished speaking, he threw away the jawbone, and the place was called Ramoth Lehi. Because he was very thirsty, he cried out to the Lord, "You have given your servant this great victory. Must I now die of thirst and fall into the hands of the uncircumcised?" Then God opened up the hollow place in Lehi, and water came out of it. When Samson drank, his strength returned, and he revived. So
go ahead.
So the spring was called En Hakkore, and it is still there in Lehi. Samson led Israel for 20 years in the days of the Philistines.
We're gonna come back here in next week and because there's some things in these closing verses of chapter 15 that I want us to examine. Not the least of them is Samson's taunting behavior, because where you might have said that what would be the more appropriate thing for Samson to do is to be to worship and celebrate. Some other occasions when battles are fought and victories are won, what you get is a feast, a sacrifice, some kind of celebration to honor God for bringing you through. But what Samson does is not that. He does something different. And so we learn something important from Samson's behavior, where once again he is strengthened by the Spirit of God to accomplish an impossible feat. And when the feat is done, he takes credit for what has happened and said, I beat all these jokers. So I took the jawbone of one ass and made asses out of 1,000. I'm a bad man. Yeah. So we'll resume our study of Samson and his wayward behavior, the way he let his God down, and the way he let his people down, and the way he let himself down. Despite that, as Cornelius read in the end, he led Israel for 20 years. So he'll use you, and thank God he won't throw you away. But don't forget that your role could stand a little more jelly. Also, all right, we're prepared to depart tonight. Mary made me big. Wow. Look at them arms. Come on, Mary, make them bigger than that. Yeah, Samson. I said, Mary made me big. God bless you. Thank you for being a part of our conversation tonight. We hope you'll be with us on Sunday. Don't forget this Saturday, if you had your first round of Pfizer vaccine with Mount Gilead 3 weeks ago, you can get the second shot on this coming Saturday between 11 and 1. Mount Gilead is just over there on Kennedy Street off Sewell's Point Road in the city of Norfolk, and everybody needs a vaccination. We got to stop this thing from going on before it gets any worse than it is. So don't pass up on that chance. Then Sunday morning, meet us here in the sanctuary at 11 o'clock for our morning worship. We'll be so glad to have you as a part of our conversation. In the meantime, God bless you, and thanks for coming. Good night.